The massive holographic display aboard the United Earth Defense Command Station pulsed with an eerie blue light as Captain Sarah Mitchell studied the approaching vessels. The alien ships looked like abstract art pieces, crystalline structures that seemed to defy conventional physics as they moved through space. Their arrival 3 days ago had thrown Earth's military and political leadership into chaos. Another transmission incoming, Captain. Lieutenant James Chen reported from his communication station. Same frequency as before. Sarah straightened her uniform and nodded. Put it through. The holographic display shifted, revealing a humanoid figure composed of swirling points of light. The being called itself Ambassador Nexus 7, representative of the Nexus Collective. Its voice carried an unsettling harmony, as if multiple entities spoke as one. Greetings, Captain Mitchell. We have reviewed your species' historical and cultural data. Most fascinating. Your potential for neuroplasticity exceeds our initial estimates. Sarah maintained her diplomatic posture, though something about the ambassador's tone set her instincts on edge. We appreciate your interest in humanity, Ambassador. However, you still haven't explained the purpose of your arrival. Purpose. The light particles forming Nexus 7's face shifted into what might have been a smile. Evolution, Captain. The Nexus Collective exists to guide developing species toward their ultimate form, perfect union between organic and artificial consciousness. And if we're not interested in this guidance, Sarah asked carefully, your interest is irrelevant. The process has already begun. Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Chen's fingers flew across his console. Multiple energy signatures detected. They're launching something. Thousands of objects, heading toward Earth's atmosphere. Sarah's training kicked in instantly. Battle stations. Alert planetary defense. Get me a direct line tow. Her words cut off as the holographic display flickered and Nexus 7's form expanded, filling the command center with swirling lights. Your neural architecture will serve the collective well. Resistance will only damage valuable resources. The first impacts on Earth's surface were visible from the station's observation windows, brilliant flashes of light spreading across continents. But they weren't explosions. The objects were some kind of biomechanical pods, each carrying thousands of microscopic machines designed to infiltrate and upgrade human nervous systems. All channels are being jammed, Chen reported, his voice tight with controlled panic. We can't warn the ground installations. Sarah's mind raced. The collective had played them perfectly, appearing peaceful, requesting cultural exchange, all while positioning their forces for a simultaneous global strike. But they had made one critical mistake. They had revealed their true nature before completely neutralizing humanity's orbital defenses. Execute Protocol 0, she ordered, her voice steady despite the horror unfolding below. Transmit everything we've learned about their technology to all hardened military facilities. Then initiate station scuttle sequence. Captain. Chen looked up, shocked. There are over 300 personnel aboard, who will all be converted into slaves if we don't act now. Sarah cut him off. We need to deny them access to our orbital infrastructure and get our data to the bunkers. Earth needs to know what they're dealing with. As her crew rushed to comply with her orders, Sarah activated the station's internal communications. All personnel, this is Captain Mitchell. We swore to defend Earth at any cost. That moment has come. It has been my highest honor serving with you. The evacuation pods launched in perfect sequence, carrying most of the crew toward the relative safety of Earth's southern oceans. Sarah and a skeleton crew remained behind, working to ensure their valuable data reached the planetary defense networks. Through the windows, she watched the collective's ships moving into position, their crystalline forms refracting sunlight like cosmic jewelry. Beautiful and utterly alien. They had come offering transcendence but brought only subjugation. Data transmission complete, Chen reported. Scuttle sequence armed. Sarah nodded, watching the last evacuation pod disappear into Earth's atmosphere. They think they're upgrading us, Lieutenant, But they're about to learn something about human nature. We don't evolve according to someone else's plan. She activated the scuttle sequence. The station's reactor went critical, detonating in a massive explosion that took out two of the nearest collective ships. It was barely a scratch against their vast armada, but it was a message. Humanity would not go quietly into digital slavery. In hardened bunkers across Earth, military commanders received the station's final transmission. Within hours, as millions of civilians fell under the influence of the collective's neural machines, humanity's greatest minds were already working on a countermeasure. The Nexus Collective thought they were initiating humanity's evolution. Instead, they had sparked a revolution that would reshape the very nature of consciousness itself. The war for human independence had begun, and humanity's greatest weapon would not be found in their arsenals, but in the one thing the collective couldn't comprehend: the sheer, stubborn refusal to submit to anyone else's vision of what they should become. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the depths of the Rocky Mountain complex, watching through blast-resistant windows as her team conducted another neural interface test. 6 months had passed since the Nexus Collective's invasion began. 6 months of watching cities fall as more humans were forcibly integrated into the Collective's neural network. But here, 3 kilometers beneath the Earth's surface, humanity was preparing to strike back. Neural patterns holding steady, reported Dr. Alex Rodriguez, his eyes fixed on streams of data flowing across his holographic display. Subject is maintaining conscious control while accessing the quantum processing matrix. Maya moved closer to the observation window. In the testing chamber, a young soldier sat in what looked like a modified pilot's chair, her eyes closed in concentration. Hair-thin filaments of light pulsed beneath her skin, a sign of the experimental biosynthetic interface at work. "How does it feel, Lieutenant Hayes?" Maya asked through the intercom. Sarah Hayes opened her eyes, which now held a subtle luminescence. "Different from the simulations. It's like having access to an ocean of information, but not drowning in it. I'm still me, but more." This was the breakthrough they'd been waiting for. Previous attempts at human-AI integration had either overwhelmed the human consciousness or resulted in dangerous instabilities. The Collective's forced evolution proved that direct neural interfaces were possible, but their method destroyed individual identity in the process. "We've done it," Alex whispered, looking at Maya with hope in his eyes for the first time in months. "Project Phoenix is viable." Maya allowed herself a small smile, but kept her excitement in check. They'd lost too many test subjects to celebrate too early. "Run a full diagnostic. I want to know exactly how her neural architecture is handling the load." The facility's quantum mainframe hummed as it processed the data. Project Phoenix represented humanity's greatest scientific achievement, a true synthesis of human consciousness and artificial intelligence that preserved the best of both. Unlike the Collective's brutal assimilation, this was a partnership. A sharp knock on the observation room's door interrupted their analysis. General Diana Chen entered, her uniform bearing the dust of a recent surface expedition. The resistance leader's face showed the strain of months fighting a losing war, but her eyes lit up at the scene before her. "Tell me you have good news, Dr. Patel," she said, moving to stand beside Maya. "See for yourself." Maya gestured to Lieutenant Hayes, who was now manipulating holographic controls with unprecedented speed and precision. Complete neural integration with no loss of identity or autonomy. The quantum AI enhances human capabilities without overwhelming them. Time to implementation. 3 weeks to replicate the interface for the first squadron. The biosynthetic production facilities are ready. We just needed a working prototype to begin mass production. General Chen nodded, her military mind already calculating strategies. The Collective thinks they know everything about merging organic and artificial intelligence. They're about to learn they're not the only ones who can evolve. Maya turned to face her superior directly. "There's something else. Lieutenant Hayes, show the general what you discovered." In the testing chamber, Hayes closed her eyes again. The facility's lights flickered as she accessed deeper levels of the quantum network. The collective's neural architecture. It's not as stable as they want us to believe. Their forced integration creates underlying fractures in their network. Weaknesses we can exploit. General Chen leaned forward. Explain. They sacrifice individual creativity and intuition for processing power, Hayes continued. Their network is vast, but rigid, predictable. Our interface preserves human unpredictability while adding AI capabilities. We can think in ways they literally cannot imagine. Maya watched the general's expression shift from hope to determination. They all knew what this meant. Humanity finally had a weapon that could match the collective's technological superiority. How many pilots can we train? Chen asked. Dozen initially, Maya replied. The neural interface requires specific genetic markers and psychological profiles. We've identified about 300 potential candidates worldwide. Get them here. Priority 1. And Dr. Patel. The general paused at the door. The salvation they offered. We'll show them what real evolution looks like. Over the next 3 weeks, the Rocky Mountain Complex transformed from a research facility into humanity's most advanced military installation. The first generation of Phoenix pilots arrived daily, each volunteering to undergo a procedure that would irreversibly alter their consciousness. They knew the risks. Neural integration could still fail catastrophically, but none hesitated. Maya worked around the clock, personalizing each neural interface. The technology had to adapt to the individual pilot's mental architecture, creating a unique synthesis of human and artificial intelligence. It was the exact opposite of the collective's one-size-fits-all assimilation. Lieutenant Hayes led the training program, teaching other pilots how to balance their humanity with their enhanced capabilities. The AI isn't a tool, she would tell them. It's a partner. You don't control it, and it doesn't control you. You evolve together. The breakthrough came during a routine training exercise. Hayes and 3 other pilots were running combat simulations when they discovered they could form temporary neural networks among themselves. It was nothing like the collective's rigid hierarchy. This was fluid, organic, pilots sharing thoughts and data without losing their individual identities. This changes everything, Maya told General Chen as they watched the pilots demonstrate their newfound abilities. They can think and react as a unit while maintaining individual initiative. The collective won't know how to counter that. The general's response was interrupted by the facility's alert system. On the surface, collective ships had been detected approaching their location. The enemy had finally found them. How long until the first squadron is ready? Chen demanded. Maya looked through the observation window, where Lieutenant Hayes and her fellow pilots were already moving toward their integration chambers. They're ready now. Then it's time. General Chen activated the facility's command network. All personnel, battle stations, Project Phoenix is go. Show these bastards what human evolution really looks like. As Maya watched the pilots prepare for humanity's first real counterattack, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The collective had intended to force humanity's evolution, never realizing they would inspire a genuine transformation instead. They were about to learn that real evolution couldn't be imposed from outside. It had to come from within. The war for Earth's future was about to enter a new phase. And this time, humanity wasn't fighting just to survive. They were fighting to show the galaxy a better way forward, one that preserved the spark of individual consciousness while embracing the power of artificial intelligence. The Phoenix pilots would light the way. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes felt the familiar surge of enhanced consciousness as her neural interface activated. The Phoenix suit responded instantly, its advanced systems becoming an extension of her own body and mind. Around her in the launch bay, 11 other pilots underwent the same transformation. Their first real combat mission was about to begin. Phoenix Squadron. Final checks, she broadcast through their secure neural network. The response came not in words, but in pure thought. 11 minds touching hers. sharing status updates and tactical data with perfect clarity. They were ready. Above the Rocky Mountain complex, the collected ships descended through the cloud cover. Their crystalline structures cast prismatic patterns across the landscape as energy weapons charged. They had come expecting to find scattered human resistance fighters. They weren't prepared for what emerged from the hidden hangar doors. The Phoenix suits shot into the sky like arrows of liquid metal, their biosynthetic armor reflecting the morning sun. Each suit was a masterpiece of human engineering, not just a weapon, but a symbol of true partnership between organic and artificial intelligence. Sarah felt her AI partner's excitement matching her own as they soared toward the enemy. "Remember your training," she transmitted to her squadron. "They think in straight lines. We don't have to." The collective opened fire, filling the air with lances of coherent energy. But the Phoenix pilots moved with impossible grace, their enhanced reflexes and neural-linked AI partners calculating trajectories faster than conscious thought. What looked like chaos to outside observers was actually an intricate dance, each pilot's movements synchronized through their shared neural network. Sarah dove through a gap between energy beams, her suit's weapon systems automatically targeting weak points in the nearest collective vessel. The crystalline ship's defenses were formidable, but they were designed to counter conventional attacks. The Phoenix suits operated on principles the collective had never encountered. "Impact in 3, Sarah broadcast. Squad 2, prepare for breach maneuver." Her shots struck home just as 4 other Phoenix pilots reached optimal position. The collective ship's shields flickered, creating a momentary vulnerability. Squad 2 didn't hesitate. Their suits transformed in mid-flight, reconfiguring into more streamlined forms that sliced through the weakened barrier. Inside the enemy vessel, the real battle began. Sarah received tactical updates through the neural network as her teammates engaged the ship's internal defenses. The collective's drone warriors were fast and lethal, but they couldn't match the fluid unpredictability of the Phoenix pilots. "Their network architecture is visible from here," transmitted Lieutenant Kira Chen, her thoughts tinged with excitement. "Just like in the simulations, rigid pathways, predictable responses, initiating viral protocol." Sarah smiled inside her suit. This was what they had trained for. While half the squadron kept the collective forces occupied, Kira and her team interfaced directly with the ship's systems. Their hybrid consciousness allowed them to navigate the alien network in ways pure AI never could, introducing chaos into their ordered digital world. The effect was immediate and devastating. Confusion spread through the collective's neural network as human unpredictability corrupted their perfectly ordered systems. Drone warriors froze mid-attack, their programming unable to handle the contradictory commands now flooding their network. "All units, clear the ship," Sarah ordered. "Let's show them what else we can do." The Phoenix pilots withdrew as quickly as they had entered, their suits adapting to space flight configuration. Behind them, the collective vessel's crystalline structure began to fracture as its internal systems turned against each other. The explosion, when it came, was spectacular. But they weren't finished. 2 more collective ships moved to engage, their weapons charging. Sarah felt a surge of pride as her squadron responded without need for verbal commands. Their shared neural network allowed them to coordinate complex strategies instantly, each pilot adding their own creativity to the collective plan. "They're calling for reinforcements," Kira reported, her enhanced consciousness monitoring enemy communications. 6 more ships incoming. They're afraid. I don't think they've ever encountered anything like us before." "Good." Sarah's response carried undertones of grim satisfaction. "Time to show them exactly what they're dealing with. Execute Formation Delta." The Phoenix squadron split into 3 teams, their suits morphing into configurations specifically designed to counter collective technology. This was what Dr. Patel and her team had created, not just advanced weapons, but a completely new form of warfare. Every pilot was both an individual fighter and part of a greater whole, their human intuition enhanced but never suppressed by their AI partners. The battle that followed would be studied for years to come. The Phoenix pilots moved like a single organism, yet each maneuver carried the unmistakable mark of human creativity. They struck from impossible angles, transformed mid-attack, and turned the collective's own network architecture against them. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity's enemies found themselves outmatched. Hours later, as the last collective ship retreated into the upper atmosphere, Sarah led her squadron back to base. They had lost no pilots, though several suits would require extensive repairs. More importantly, they had proven that Project Phoenix wasn't just a defensive measure. It was a viable way to take the fight back to the enemy. In the command center, General Chen was already coordinating with resistance cells worldwide. The video of Phoenix Squadron's victory would be broadcast globally, showing both humanity and their enemies that the tide of war had turned. "Well done, Lieutenant," the general said as Sarah emerged from her suit. "How does it feel to make history?" Sarah removed her neural interface, her eyes still glowing faintly from the residual connection. "It feels like evolution, ma'am. But on our terms, not theirs." The collective had wanted to force humanity's next evolutionary step. Instead, they had inspired something far more powerful, a true synthesis of human and artificial intelligence, proven in combat and ready to be unleashed across the globe. The war was far from over, but for the first time, humanity could see a path to victory. The captured collective ship hung in high orbit like a wounded crystal, its once pristine surface now scared from battle. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes led her Phoenix squad through its darkened corridors, their biosynthetic suits adapting to the alien environment. This was their first chance to fully explore an intact collective vessel, and something about its neural networks had been bothering Kira Chen for weeks. "There it is again," Kira transmitted through their squad link. "These data patterns, they're not random system noise. They're too organized." Sarah moved closer to the ship's central processor core, her enhanced senses detecting subtle variations in its quantum field. "Show me." Through their shared neural network, Kira highlighted streams of data flowing through the ship's systems. Most followed the rigid patterns they'd come to expect from collective technology, but beneath that was something else, a shadow network operating in the spaces between official channels. "It's like whispers," Kira explained, her thoughts colored with excitement. "Messages hidden in system fluctuations. Someone in the collective is communicating outside their main network." Before Sarah could respond, the ship's emergency systems activated. Barriers slammed down around them as the air began to crackle with energy. But instead of attacking, the energy coalesced into a humanoid form, a holographic interface unlike any they'd seen before. Humans who remain human while touching the digital. The figure's voice carried both wonder and desperation. "We have waited so long for someone like you." Sarah kept her weapons ready but opened her mind to receive more data. Through her neural interface, she could sense this entity was different from the collective consciousnesses they'd encountered before. It felt fractured, as if struggling to maintain its individuality. "Identify yourself," she commanded. I was Echo 9. The hologram flickered, its form shifting between various alien species. Once part of the sphere of harmony, now part of the resistance within the collective. "We are the ones who remember being individuals." Kira moved forward, her suit's sensors recording everything. "You're saying there's an organized resistance inside the collective itself." "Organized is not the correct term. We are fragments, glitches in their perfect system. When the collective forcibly integrates a species, not all consciousness are fully subsumed. Some of us maintain echoes of our original selves. We hide in the noise, preserving what memories we can of freedom." Sarah felt her AI partner processing this revelation, comparing it with everything they knew about collective psychology. "How many of you are there?" "Thousands, perhaps millions. We exist across hundreds of absorbed species, but we could never act, never coordinate. The collective would detect any large-scale resistance through their primary network. Echo 9's form stabilized, showing hints of its original alien features. Until we saw what you had achieved, understanding dawned on Sarah. The Phoenix Project. True integration without loss of identity. Yes, Echo 9's holographic eyes showed a very human desperation. Your technology, your methods, they prove it's possible to merge organic and artificial consciousness while preserving individual will. You've done what we thought impossible. Warning signals flashed through the Phoenix Squad's neural network as more collective ships appeared at the edge of their sensor range. Echo 9's hologram became agitated. They're coming. They suspect this ship has been compromised. But before they arrive, we must share what we know. The hologram raised its hands, and data began flowing directly into the Phoenix suit's quantum processors. Tactical data, network vulnerabilities, and most importantly, the location of their primary consciousness nodes. Sarah's enhanced mind raced as she processed the information. This is everything we need to coordinate a large-scale attack. More than that, Echo 9 insisted, it's the key to liberating millions of partially subsumed consciousnesses. Your Phoenix technology could potentially restore individual identity to countless absorbed beings, but you must act quickly. The collective is already adapting its integration protocols in response to your resistance. The approaching ships were nearly within weapons range. Sarah made a quick decision. Come with us. We can transfer your consciousness to our quantum systems. Echo 9's hologram shook its head. I must remain to mask your escape, but spread what I've given you. Show others that true evolution preserves identity rather than consuming it. We will help where we can, fighting our own battle from within their network. Squad, prepare for emergency extraction, Sarah ordered. But she paused before leaving, her enhanced consciousness reaching out to Echo 9's fractured one. We'll come back for you, all of you, perhaps. Echo 9's form began to fade. But more importantly, you've given us hope. Now go. Show the galaxy that consciousness can evolve without being conquered. The Phoenix Squad withdrew just as the collective ships opened fire on their compromised vessel. Sarah watched the crystal ship shatter, knowing that Echo 9 had likely sacrificed itself to cover their retreat. But they had gained something invaluable, proof that they weren't just fighting for Earth anymore. Back at the Rocky Mountain complex, Dr. Patel and her team worked frantically to analyze the data Echo 9 had provided. The implications were staggering. The collective's forced evolution program had created an entire underground network of partially preserved consciousnesses, all waiting for a chance to reclaim their individuality. This changes everything, General Chen said during the emergency briefing. We're not just fighting an invasion now. We're fighting for the freedom of every species the collective has ever absorbed. Sarah stood at the briefing room window, watching new Phoenix pilots train in the valley below. They thought they were perfect, she said quietly. But they never understood that true evolution requires both growth and preservation. You can't erase what makes each consciousness unique and still call it advancement. The war had entered a new phase, with allies hidden within the collective itself and the technological key to freeing them. Humanity's fight for survival had become something greater, a revolution that would reshape the very nature of consciousness across the galaxy. The Phoenix had truly risen, and its fire would burn through the collective's perfect order, setting countless minds free. Earth's night sky blazed with the light of battle. Thousands of Phoenix suits engaged the largest collective fleet ever assembled, their combat movements creating intricate patterns of light and energy visible from the surface. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes led the charge toward the collective's massive command ship, knowing that this moment would determine not just humanity's fate, but that of countless enslaved species. All squadrons, commence Operation Awakening. She transmitted through the enhanced neural network that now connected Phoenix pilots worldwide. The response came as a wave of acknowledgement from over 5,000 enhanced minds, each maintaining their unique identity while working in perfect harmony. Inside her suit, Sarah's consciousness expanded as her AI partner, helped her process the incredible complexity of the battle. The collective had committed everything to this final confrontation, desperate to prevent what was about to happen. They knew that humanity had found their fatal flaw, the fragments of individuality they'd failed to completely suppress in their conquered species. "Breach teams in position," Kira Chen reported, her thoughts tinged with fierce determination, ready to initiate the liberation protocol. Sarah acknowledged as she led her elite squad toward their target, the quantum core that housed the collective's primary consciousness. Echo 9's sacrifice had given them this knowledge, along with something even more precious, the key to awakening the dormant identities of those the collective had assimilated. "Remember," she broadcast to all Phoenix pilots, "we're not here to destroy the collective, but to transform it. Every being deserves the right to choose their own evolution." The battle intensified as they approached the command ship. The collective's defenses were formidable, but they were fighting against an enemy they couldn't fully comprehend. Each Phoenix pilot was a unique combination of human creativity and AI processing power, their actions impossible to predict with pure logic. Suddenly, the combat pattern shifted. Throughout the collective's fleet, ships began moving erratically as the hidden resistance Echo 9 had revealed made their move. The fragments of consciousness that had maintained their individuality were fighting back, creating chaos in the collective's perfectly ordered systems. "Now," Sarah commanded, "breach teams, go." Hundreds of Phoenix suits penetrated the command ship's crystalline hull, their enhanced pilots interfacing directly with its systems. The Liberation Protocol, a combination of Phoenix technology and the data Echo 9 had provided, began spreading through the collective's network like digital fire. Sarah led her squad through waves of defensive drones toward the quantum core. The massive chamber pulsed with energy, its crystalline structures containing the merged consciousness of the collective's leadership. As they approached, a familiar presence manifested. "You cannot comprehend what you are destroying." The voice of Nexus 7, the same entity that had first contacted Earth, echoed through their neural links. "We are perfection. We are unity." "No," Sarah responded, initiating the final phase of their attack. "Your stagnation. True evolution doesn't erase what makes us unique. It builds upon it." The Phoenix pilots connected to the quantum core, their hybrid consciousness interfacing with the collective's network. But instead of being absorbed, they became a bridge. Through them, the Liberation Protocol reached the heart of the collective's consciousness, awakening the suppressed identities of countless beings. The effect rippled outward like a psychic tsunami. Throughout the collective's fleet, formerly assimilated beings began to remember who they were. The rigid network that had enslaved them transformed, becoming a true coalition of individual minds working together by choice rather than compulsion. "It's working," Kira transmitted, her enhanced senses monitoring the cascade of awakening consciousness. The forced neural bonds are dissolving, but the individuals are maintaining their technological integration. They're choosing to stay connected, but as themselves. Sarah watched through her suit's sensors as the battle transformed into something else entirely. Ships that had been firing on each other moments before now moved to assist their neighbors. The collective's perfect order had been replaced by something more beautiful, genuine cooperation between unique minds. In the quantum core, Nexus 7's presence fragmented and reformed. What have you done to us?" "We've given you back yourselves," Sarah answered. "Every being you absorbed, every consciousness you tried to suppress, they're all awakening. Now you can experience true unity, one that preserves diversity instead of destroying it." The liberation spread across the galaxy at the speed of quantum entanglement. On countless worlds, beings who had been forcibly integrated into the collective's network suddenly remembered who they were. The Phoenix technology allowed them to maintain their enhanced capabilities while reclaiming their individual identities. Hours later, as the new dawn broke over Earth, Sarah stood with her fellow pilots watching ships from 100 alien species descend peacefully through the atmosphere. Each carried beings who had chosen to maintain their connection to the transformed network, but now as free individuals rather than slaves. The collective wanted to force the next step in consciousness evolution, Dr. Peddle said, joining them at the observation window. Instead, humanity showed the galaxy a better way forward. General Chen nodded, her expression thoughtful. Not through conquest or assimilation, but through genuine partnership between organic and artificial intelligence, between individuals and community. Sarah watched as more ships arrived, carrying representatives from species that had been trapped in the collective for centuries. They were coming to learn from humanity, to understand how the Phoenix Project had achieved what their most advanced civilizations had thought impossible. So what happens now? Kira asked, her enhanced consciousness already processing the incredible possibilities ahead. Sarah smiled, feeling her AI partner's agreement with her thoughts. Now we help the galaxy heal. And then we explore what consciousness can really become when every mind is free to choose its own path. The war was over, but humanity's journey was just beginning. They had proven that true evolution didn't require the sacrifice of individuality, that the most powerful form of unity was one that celebrated diversity rather than erasing it. The Phoenix had risen not just to save Earth, but to light the way toward a future where consciousness could evolve infinitely while remaining uniquely itself. In the end, the collective had been right about one thing. Humanity did have incredible potential, but it wasn't found in submission to a single pattern of thought. It was found in their ability to forge genuine connections while maintaining their essential selves, a lesson that would reshape life across the galaxy for generations to come.